Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir, and we've got something on tap for today, folks. And it is Senator Ted Cruz in this video clip questioning Stacey Abrams, 2, 3, 4-time loser in elections. That's right, folks. But she keeps making the statement that the election was stolen, that Governor Kemp cheated, that people were disenfranchised, especially those of minority, blacks, Hispanics. You know how it works. We're going to get to all that in a absolutely fiery exchange. But before we do, if you haven't done so, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. Put your comments down below. Are you as delusional as Stacey Abrams in thinking that the election was completely stolen? Or do you think that Stacey Abrams should just quietly disappear? We don't want her to disappear. We want her there front and center so people realize what what these people are absolutely like, okay? And we're going to get to that right now, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Abrams, it's been over 2 years, and you still refuse to concede that you lost the race for governor in Georgia in 2018. You have said that, quote, you do not concede that the process was proper, and that, quote, they stole it from the voters of Georgia. Yes or no, today, do you still maintain that the 2018 Georgia election was stolen?
As I've always said, I acknowledged at the very beginning that Brian Kemp won under the rules that were in place. What I object to are rules that permitted thousands of Georgia voters to be denied their participation in this election or to have their votes cast out. And so I will continue to disagree with the.
Now, I just want to say, isn't that sort of the same thing that people are saying about the 2020 election with President Trump? They agree, okay, basically say that under the rules that were there, Biden won, but that there were rules that were changed which allowed the disenfranchisement of many voters and allowed many voters to participate whose votes shouldn't have counted because of the new rule changes that shouldn't have been implemented. So, right? I mean, come on now. You can't have it just say it on your side that there was disenfranchisement and that the rules were changed, but not allow it to be said from the other side as well, correct?
The system until it is fixed. We have seen market progress made, and unfortunately, it was undone in SB 202. But I will continue to advocate for a system that permits every eligible Georgian to cast their ballots.
Ms. Abrams, I'm going to ask you to please answer the question I asked, which is, do you, yes or no, do you still maintain the 2018 election was stolen? That's your language.
My full language was that it was stolen from the voters of Georgia. We do not know what they would have done because not every eligible Georgian was permitted to participate fully in the election.
So you also told the New York Times that your loss, quote, was fully attributable to voter suppression. Ms. Abrams, do you know in Georgia whether the percentage of African-American Georgians who are registered to vote and who turned out to vote, is it higher or lower than the national average?
It is higher than the national average because Georgia is one of the largest states with an African-American population.
But that's not tied to the size of the population. The percentage of black Georgians who are registered to vote in 2018 is 64.7%. That compares to 60.2% as the national average. The percentage of Georgians who voted in 2018, the election you claim was stolen from you, was 56.3%. That's higher than the national average of 48%. Let me ask you this, Ms. Abrams. In 2018, do you know which demographic group in Georgia had the highest registration percentage and the highest turnout percentage?
I have a guess, but I will defer to you for the answer.
The answer is African Americans had the highest registration.
She knew that answer, but she didn't want to say it because then she's going to look like a stupid, idiotic, moronic retard. SIMR, right? The acronym SIMR, stupid, idiotic, moronic, retarded. So that's why she basically said, I'll defer to you, Senator Ted Cruz, to give me the answer.
And the highest turnout, despite your claiming that the election was stolen and there was somehow voter suppression. Let's shift to the Georgia law in particular, which there have been mountains of lies spread by both Democratic politicians and by the press. Does the Georgia law reduce the number of early voting days? Yes or no?
Yes. It does so because you have to look at it in toto. It is not simply looking at the number of days that were expanded for 40% of the population, which for 60% of the population had been the norm. It also has to look at the early voting runoff days that were indeed shortened. If you add
is
together
it
the
correct
total
that
number
the
of days
law increases the number of mandatory days of early weekend voting?
It is a partial answer to say that certain days were increased in certain counties that had not participated in the use of all of those days of elections. They had been optional, and most 60% of Georgians had been able to vote for those full number of days. 40% will now join, and that is a good thing. But at the exact same time, this same bill eliminates weeks of early voting during runoff elections and limits and allows the elimination of weekend voting.
Do you believe that requiring an ID to vote suppresses votes?
As I have said, written, testified, and have repeated today, I believe that voter identification is always appropriate. You should know who is voting. What I object to are the ways that we are narrowing and restricting who has access to the right to vote. And that has been a common and necessary complaint. As we noted in 2018, what happened to Native Americans in North Dakota who were denied the right to vote because they were required to have photo identification that included language and included perquisites that they were not entitled to demand. When we have narrowing of opportunities without expansion of access, that is absolutely wrong, and I will stand against it in Georgia.
Nobody gives a crap right now, okay? We were talking about it in Georgia. And I'm actually not privy to what they were talking about, the Native Indians in North Dakota, but I am sure that whatever Stacey Abrams is talking about, there's some subterfuge and a lot of fraud and a lot of lies concocted with that in terms of what was going on. All you need to do is to have some form of an ID. And if you're up in talking about, if you want to talk about the American Indians in North Dakota, are you telling me that there is no way that these people, they're not driving, they don't have a driver's license, they don't have any form of identification at all, that they can't get there? I mean, that just boggles the mind, folks. They just sort of, again, make it that people are just too stupid to go get a driver's license. They're too stupid to get a state ID. They're too stupid to get some form of identification. And especially if there are some of those that are living on native lands, there are so many programs that are made available for the American Indian population, the native population, the generations that have come after. I mean, it's just there. They just have to ask. There's so much money that's being attributed to the native Indian lands, to Native Americans in terms of helping them out. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's an unbelievably huge bureaucracy that is just there for Native Americans, Native Indians here.
And everywhere.
During the 2020 election, did your organization, Fair Fight, collect ballots for voters? And if so, collecting ballots for your organization paid?
We did not collect ballots. We did not pay people to collect ballots. We sent to voters absentee ballot applications, as did the Secretary of State, as did a number of other organizations, because in the midst of a pandemic, we thought it was important for voters who may or may not have had information about what their rights were to ensure that they had the education and opportunity for engagement in our elections.
So I want to be clear about your testimony to this committee. Your testimony is that your organization did not pay any person in the state of Georgia in 2020 to collect ballots for anybody else.
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so that was pretty much it right there. He asked the question, did you pay anybody? I'm sure, folks, okay, the Democratic Party, the Democratic institutions, the PACs, whoever they were, individuals, other organizations linked to it, I cannot believe that they did not pay people to go collect ballots from others, which we call ballot harvesting. Okay, I don't trust Stacey Abrams as far as I could throw her, and I think it would be pretty hard. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just don't I don't anything that comes out of Stacey Abrams' mouth. I first take it as an unbelievable lie. That's how you have to handle what comes basically from a lot of these politicians, especially on the left, especially those that are, what I would venture to say that she probably does call herself a democratic socialist. And it's just one of those things here that it's good that we got her on the record. Now we basically have to make sure to find out if that is true and if that's legal or not. Can you pay people to pick up ballots? Every state might have a different statute for that. We're really not sure. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like, share, and follow us. And I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.